The sci-fi dystopian genre has existed in media for years, including countless titles, spanning across numerous mediums. You've got novels like 1984, to big-budget movies like Star Wars, to anime. Anime in particular, the sci-fi dystopian stories are some of the most influential and groundbreaking, with stories like Evangelion, Akira, and many of the different titles in the Gundam franchise being set in the genre. However, in recent times, unfortunately, the genre has started to become non-existent in terms of new titles coming out each season. In an age of anime where every season it seems like Japan is continuing to pump out more and more bland and repetitive fantasy shows, the sci-fi genre in general seems to get barely any adaptations aside from super large franchises in exchange for another anime about a knockoff black swordsman. That being said, there is most certainly still hope, as there are shows like 86 and Psycho-Pass to help keep the genre alive. This season, we've got Heavenly Delusion. It's another new show which we need to get people interested in because this show is absolutely insane and it could help, I think, a lot revive just the sci-fi themes in shonen alone. It is so far really interesting, really compelling. Alright, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. First off, what is Heavenly Delusion? And second, what makes it so interesting to me? Heavenly Delusion is a story that is centering on two perspectives. The first one centers around the children raised within a futuristic nursery of sorts, closed off from the outside world, but with an outside that resembles a forest. Tokyo is a young boy who seems to go through his day-to-day life like normal, until a strange message plants a question inside his mind. What is outside the outside? His clever and perceptive friend Mimihime only spurs his curiosity, as she sort of seemingly has deduced that already, and other things, which is really interesting. So it's set up some interesting things where she may have unknown abilities in terms of what she knows, or she just has overheard things, but she also knows that like a test is going to occur that day. So we're getting into some interesting things with her character. It's also interesting because in most stories, you would sort of sit in the compound and then slowly try to figure out what was going on, whether this was all there is or not. But in this, it just tells you right off the bat. It just is like, no, there is an outside world. And so it's a bit interesting because you're immediately given the answer, so you're trying to focus more on the mysteries of why they're here. Is the outside world good or bad, right? So it's sort of fascinating in that sense. Our second duo of protagonists, Kiriko and Maru, travel through a rundown Japan, raiding abandoned houses for supplies and fending off scavengers. So they're sort of just hanging out almost. They're adventuring in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, which is sort of interesting because it's a different tone than we're used to, where it's a very desperate, sort of eerie, spooky, almost dim environment. They're sort of just hanging out, traveling, slowly trying to get to their destination. Now, what is their destination? Well, Maru, he's hired Kiriko as a bodyguard for him, and he's sort of in a search for a place called Heaven, which so far no one really knows. So it's kind of interesting. We don't know exactly where they're going, where this place really is, and they don't even know it. Now, obviously, there's still like threats in the episode. They come across this gang who is trying to like do some nasty stuff to them, but then they easily defend them off. We see that Maru's got some sort of Jackie Chan kung fu moves, and Kiriko has like this gun, which is like a laser gun, battery powered. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. That's definitely the sci-fi elements raising their head. What I think is so captivating about this episode is just the atmosphere. It's been animated so well. They've got lots of like beautiful backgrounds. It's incredible. It's just gorgeous to just see them walking around this place. It's just atmosphere. You sort of sink into the world, right? And that's really interesting. They even come across this couple that's died, and it's a really haunting, yet somehow peaceful scene as we see their corpses lying there hand in hand. It's a very odd tone for a sci-fi dystopian. It's in many ways hopeful, but also feels melancholy at the same time, which is sort of a hypocrisy. And the scenes are directed with such warmth as to envelop the viewer, so it's definitely not going for a really dark tone as of yet. However, then we get to the second half of the episode, and this is where the kid from the first one, Tokyo, he sort of comes to his director and he's like, is there an outside world? And we get this really creepy thing where she is sort of going back and forth with him and then confirms it with this very odd menacing face. And then Maru and Kiriko go to this inn place, some sort of place to stay over the night, and this lady's there, and they're searching for two guys who may be in the guest book because they're looking for them as well. Kiriko is. And the lady's sort of like, no, they're not there. I don't know what heaven is. And so they stay there. Then she feeds them, and it's like a very odd scene. There's a little bit of tension if they don't accept the food, which is kind of interesting. And then finally, the ending of the episode where this insane dodo-like bird pulls up on the motel, and right before this, Kiriko has felt like she needs to fall asleep. So I don't know whether they were drugged to be fed and sacrificed to this thing, but wow, I would not want to be eaten by that. And yes, that is a bird. That is insane. So we're gonna get some more monsters like this, I assume, in the episodes, but that is crazy. And it just ends with this woman with a shotgun in her lap waiting for this bird, and we just get jump scared at the end. So next episode, which is actually airing today, is going to probably be really insane. So you guys really should check this out. I think it's really interesting. It's a lot different. It has a different tone than a lot of sci-fi. It's kind of more lighthearted, but I think it's going to get really dark. It's going to get really interesting because also Mimihime, Tokyo's friend from the first perspective, tells him that she saw in a vision or dream another guy who looks exactly like him come to save him, which we can assume is Maru. So it's going to be really interesting when their paths cross and how they are going to cross. So we should definitely look forward to this. I think it's a really unique anime that I haven't seen many people talking about. So go check it out. It's airing this season, and I think this is going to be the more underrated gem in terms of quality, as we've got huge big budget shows like Demon Slayer. I think this might go unnoticed, and so give it some love. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Like the video if you liked it. Consider subscribing, comment down below whether you like this anime or have heard about it and if you're going to check it out. And I will see you in the next one.